So for muscular endurance, this is actually a two-part test. So there's going to be two individual tests that still fall under the umbrella of muscular endurance. And the definition of muscular endurance is the ability of a muscle or group of muscles to sustain repetition of forceful contractions. And it is important because it allows for less activity-induced fatigue, um, lower risk of musculoskeletal injuries, and consequently a higher quality of life. Right, it kind of ensures that you're not getting tired and bogged down just from everyday activities. Right, maybe like folding clothes or moving things about the house. So the first portion of the muscular endurance test is a push-up test. So the goal of that would just be to perform the maximum number of repetitions um, until your technique becomes compromised or excessive straining is evident in any one repetition. So for the start position of the push-up, you're going to be laying on your chest, right, chest down on the ground, with your back, neck, and legs straight. Your toes are going to be the long axis of your foot is going to be perpendicular to the ground, so your toes are going to be kind of driven into the ground as a pivot point, and your hands are going to be palmed down on the ground right underneath your shoulders, maybe just a little bit wider, but or a little right in through here around your shoulders, and so that's the start position. And then for the lift, basically you press yourself up off the ground, away from the ground, so as to achieve arm extension at the elbow joint, and you got to lift yourself as one piece. Your entire body should be using as one piece. So it shouldn't be like shouldn't be your chest kind of going up and then your legs and your hips and everything follow. And in the same fashion, it shouldn't be like your butt up or your hips and legs up and then you push your chest up. Also, it's supposed to be one level up and down. Um, and then again, so you start in the down position, you press yourself up, and then you're going to lower yourself down again until your elbow achieves a 90-degree angle. So if your elbow if your elbow angle is acute, like mine is right now, that's a little bit too low. But if it's an obtuse angle, we can know that you're not down far low enough. Again, with the push-up repetitions, you want to be achieving a consistent tempo along with the ideal form that I just described. So, again, when that tempo breaks significantly or when your form becomes compromised, that's when the test will be stopped, and then the number of good repetitions that you've done, that will be our working value for your muscular endurance according to the push-up test. Second phase in the muscular endurance test is what we call partial curl-ups. So it's very similar to like a sit-up, but it's only a fraction of that movement, and I'll explain that more here in a second. But the goal of the partial curl-ups test is to achieve the maximum number of repetitions, sort of like the push-up test, but with this one we cap it at 75. So if you get to 75 and you're still going strong, nobody receives a value higher than 75. And then obviously, if your test is over before 75, whatever number you reach, that'll be the value that we work with for the partial curl-up test. But the position that you assume for the partial curl-up test is you lay on your back with your feet flat on the floor. Still, the soles of your feet flat on the floor, which means your knees have to be bent about 90 degrees. And then you put your arms by your side, right? Almost like how you stand with your arms down by your side, but they're going to be laying on the ground because you're lying on your back. And we're going to place one piece of tape so your fingers are touching it without straining or moving, just right there on top of your fingers. And then we're going to place another piece of tape 12 centimeters away. And so you're going to move your hands from the first piece of the tape up 12 centimeters, and then you're going to touch that second piece of tape, and then you're going to move them back. So from the low piece of tape or the closest piece of tape up and back will be one repetition. Now, this is executed with a metronome. So we set a metronome to 40 beats per minute, and then you don't move until the metronome sounds. So it'll beep once, that's when you go forward, and then you don't come back to the closest piece of tape until the second beep of the metronome sounds. Then on the third beep, you'd go up again, and on the fourth beep, you'd come back. So in 4 beeps, you would do 2 reps, and that's why they call it a partial curl up test. With only moving the 12 centimeters, moving your your hands to 12 centimeters, that results in, just like the first third or the first quarter of a sit-up. What calls for the termination of the partial curl up test would be if you go forward an inadequate amount so as to not touch the furthest piece of tape, the one 12 centimeters away. If you begin to not touch that, that would count as, basically like a faulty rep, and then that would stop the test. Or if you begin to break the tempo set by the metronome, right? If the metronome's beeping and then you are significantly slower than the metronome in your movements, that would also be grounds for terminating the test and assigning you, the value that you're at as far as completed repetitions.